If you enjoy this podcast, then be sure to check out Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily, where you can get your daily dose of farm wisdom. Tune in every day to learn the latest tips, tricks, and stories from the world of farming. Whether you're a seasoned farmer or just getting started, our podcast has something for everyone. Join us as we explore topics like farm business, crop planning, soil management, and tools and technology. Start your day off right with Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily, available on all major podcast platforms. Don't miss out. Subscribe today. Other friendly above ground decomposers that gardeners, farmers should be aware of? I don't know, things like sow bugs, pill bugs, soldier bugs, any of those that you have expertise in that you can talk a little more on?
Oh man, I think the one group that's really interesting that I've always found, and it's partially just the numerous services they are, is it's a large group of insect or ground beetles. So they're this group of, some of them, as I was saying, these really small, nondescript blacks and browns, but again, some of them are really beautiful iridescents, and they are beetles, but most of them are adapted. They don't fly, they're not prodigious flyers, but they live at the soil surface, and they provide all sorts of really incredible services from the perspective of someone who's either farming or even in your backyard garden. They can be really effective weed seed eaters. So these are granivory as a service, so eating those weeds that have a million billion seeds that are the size of a speck of dust, that you bump it and it spreads them all over the place, and after a good rain you've got a million new weeds coming up. These carabid beetles, there's a lot of species that they can be ferocious weed seed eaters, and they're at the soil surface just crunching and munching through all of them, and they might not eat the whole thing, but they maybe take a few bites of it, and that's enough to break the hard shell of the seed, and that weed won't germinate. And I've been lucky enough it was other graduate students' projects, but helping out where we would put out cards of we would, under a microscope, take these tiny seeds and line them up in a perfect grid. Okay, in this little card, we know we put 100 seeds out there, and we put it out in the field. We maybe cover it with a metal cage so a mouse can't eat it, so only an insect can go through. And after 2 days, you take the card and then you look at it under a microscope, and it's so cool. You can see little bite marks in all those seeds, or some of them where it's totally gone. And that's a really cool, you don't think of, there's this whole community of insects eating all the weeds that are out there. And rabbits do a really good job of doing that. And some of them less are weed seed eaters, but they're predators. They do a really good job eating pests. So little beetle larvae that could be munching on your vegetables, or nematodes, or whatever it might be crawling on the soil surface. They can do a really good job of predating on those kind of things. So that's just the fact that they do so many, jobs in a system is something that I've always just really appreciated from the ground beetles. And you find them wherever you are. They're incredibly adaptive. You could have a vegetable field with a million different things, or a cornfield, and if you look, you can probably find a couple of ground beetles without much effort.
Does this go hand in hand with a lot of the NRCS soil conservation principles of, if you want above ground biodiversity of these insects, you generally follow the rule of like more biodiversity, more cover, not bare soil, animal rotation, those types of things? If you have those conditions from a plant basis, does that give you the conditions that the insects you want need to thrive? Do they go hand in hand?
Yeah, absolutely. The more plant diversity that you've got within that system, and whether that's within marginal space, devoting it to like your ends of your field, putting in hedgerows or wildflower plantings, or things that you can get from NRCS or any sort of other service, you can get mixes, whether it be a cover crop or just a companion planting of these crops to put wherever in your field. I think any amount that you can do goes a long way, because again, you might be thinking it's just one row of feet long, but when you think of a perspective of a tiny little insect, any space that you're giving, they can take advantage of. And having that cover on the soil surface, you're absolutely right, having that plant material. And so they just are more willing to go out and venture out. They feel safe if they've got something over them, because as I said, every bird that's flying around, every mouse or mole probably would take a bite out of them if they could. So if the insect feels more protected, they're willing to prowl out there more. And a lot of these insects, either at some point in their life, whether it be as eggs or as larvae or as some point in adults, live in the soil, especially that top couple inches of soil, as you hinted at, reducing the soil disturbance, whether that be really intensive tillage or things like that, either eliminating or reducing that can go a long way in allowing these insects that are living in that soil surface, giving them a better chance to, especially those beneficial insects that usually it takes longer compared to insect pests, which that's what they do best, is building up numbers really fast no matter what we do. And these beneficial insects do take a little bit longer to build up a population until you can start to see the benefits. And if you take care of them, as I was saying, doing these kind of things with more plant diversity, it takes a little bit, but you can be really surprised how quickly these insects that you've never seen before take advantage of the space you're giving them.
That just triggered a thought. Since going back to dung beetles, since they're small, that rice to baked bean size, tough for people to see, especially if they don't want to go digging through that fresh dung to see them. Are there indicator species higher up the food chain that feed on dung, such and such type of bird? Like if you see this bird, you see a lot of these birds, they're there because they're eating dung beetles. So is there something like that would say, if you have these, then there's a lot of dung beetles?
So I think of, as you're saying, dung beetles are one of those indicator species just because they're so large. And if they're there, a lot of things can take advantage of it. But just anecdotally, when I would be in those pastures that were doing the high intensity grazing and using those regenerative practices, those are the pastures where you would see a lot of birds in general flying around the grass. And where I was at in the Dakotas, these grassland species that are in bunches of grass, building these tiny little teacup nests that are their laying eggs. And we would come across them and see the adults, picking through the dung pad. And that's not necessarily something you can always rely on, but that's, if you've got a lot of insect life living within that pad, having birds coming in there and with their, just by virtue of being so much bigger, scratching and pecking through that dung pad, all they're doing, and might be snatching a few dung beetles or maybe even some fly larvae on the journey, but they're breaking apart that pad even more. So I think you're absolutely right. The higher trophic levels up, you go higher up the food chain. If you see a whole lot of birds in that system where the cattle were just grazing, that's a great indication that you've got a really healthy insect community that's taking advantage of a really healthy plant and microbial community.
Today's episode is brought to you by Modern Grower, a proud retailer of the Sumi Soaker system. The Sumi Soaker system is an irrigation game changer. It offers multiple advantages for market gardeners. Even gentle watering without dry spots common with wobblers. The system is lightweight and portable, so you can use it with quick rotation crops. It's low maintenance with no parts to break or clog. It's versatile. You can use it for direct seeding, transplants, and cover crops. And it's very cost effective compared to overhead options. And maybe one of its best and most unique features is it can put down water in a rectangular pattern, which is very different than rotating sprinklers that leave circular patterns, often with dry corners and overwatered centers. If you want to learn more about the Sumi Soaker system, use the link below or visit us at shop.moderngrower.co.